I'm going to show you some very, very interesting birds that are called raptors, or birds of prey. So I am not going to tell you what he's going to show you because it's best for him to do that himself.
So today is a very, very special day. Can anyone tell me what today is? Earth Day! I heard it from a whole bunch of you. That's right. Earth Day is a very, very exciting day. And today I have one of my favorite types of animals to show you guys. I do have live animals with me today, and we don't want them to get spooked. If you guys want to take photos and videos, I'm more than happy for you guys to do so. All I ask is that you guys just don't use any flash photography, as that can startle some of these guys. So we have birds of prey. Can anyone tell me what a bird of prey is? Yes, young man. Oh, an animal that eats other animals. What do you think?
Like a peregrine falcon.
Like a peregrine falcon. You guys are naming birds of prey, but what is a bird of prey? Young lady.
Bird of prey is
Yes, a bird that eats other birds or fish. Yes, that's right. They're carnivores. They are equipped with very special tools, specialized beaks, and specialized feet, which are their excellent hunting tools at catching other animals. Now, there are 5 major birds of prey that we have out here on Long Island. I'll name off a few. So we have a hawk, we have an owl, we have an eagle. Can anyone tell me the other 2? First hand up.
I know.
Starts with an F, young man.
Ivy.
That was number 4, and what's the 5th one?
Ivy.
Oh, you're close, yes.
Falcon.
Falcon, that's right. We have hawk, owls, eagles, vultures, and falcons. So, ospreys. Yes, that is a very special type of bird of prey. In fact, it used to be in the hawk family, but got moved out into its own family because it's so specialized, because it's one of the few birds of prey that only eats almost entirely fish. So you are 100% right that they are a bird of prey. So I have 4 different types for you guys to meet today, and we'll start off small and we'll work our way up bigger. Throughout my presentation, I love questions. And so I will go throughout, I'll start talking about this animal, why it lives here at the Quogue Wildlife Refuge, and all the cool things that I can show you about these guys. If you have questions, feel free to raise your hand. I'd love to answer them for you. Before I take this one out, has anyone noticed what I put on my arm? A glove. This has 3 different layers, because what do you think this animal has? That's right, talons. Those talons can be super dangerous, so I'm protecting myself. And I will be working with this animal. We have a very special working relationship.
Is it an owl? Is it an owl?
I don't know.
Owl.
A who? Who? All right, so boys and girls, I'm just going to remind you, we're going to be super quiet because we don't want to spook my friend today. Okay. Who? Yes, I heard a few people say I have an eastern screech owl. Now, boys and girls, can anyone tell me, is this a baby owl? You guys are absolutely wrong. This is an old man. This is an old man owl. This is the eastern screech owl, and this is as tall as they get. And I'm going to make my way through this aisle so everyone can get a chance to see this animal up close. And you guys are doing such an excellent job at keeping quiet for my eastern screech owl friend here. Now, boys and girls, this is one of the most common owls here on Long Island. Now, raise your hand if you've ever seen one in the wild. I see a handful of hands raised, but I will tell you, there's about 1 for every 10 blocks. But some of you are probably thinking, well, I've never seen one. Why is that? That's because the eastern screech owl loves to go inside what's called a tree cavity, a small hollow. That is a place that they'll call their own. They don't make any nests or anything on tree branches. Eastern screech owls are not a nocturnal animal. They don't come out just right around in the darkest time of night. They're, in fact, what we call crepuscular. Crepuscular meaning an animal that favors dawn and dusk. That's their favorite times for them to come out. So, boys and girls, we're going to do a little quiz right here. So, this guy is really tiny. Does anyone want to think, if you raise your hand if you think maybe he's 10 pounds? Some hands? 3 pounds. Maybe as much as a box of paper clips. If you those with your hands raised right now, you were right. He is about the weight of a box of paper clips or maybe even a clementine orange. He is so light. In fact, all birds are because they need to be light in order to fly. But how do they get so light? That's because their bones are a lot different than ours. They're hollow. So if you can imagine you have a paper towel roll and the tube in the middle, that cardboard roll, that's about kind of what their bones look like. So here at the Quogue Wildlife Refuge, we don't participate in wildlife rehabilitation. When an animal gets injured out in the wild, we don't do any kind of medicine, but what we do is we work with wildlife rehabilitators all across Long Island. So if they try to heal an animal and release it back into the wild where it belongs, sometimes an animal has an injury so severe that it can't survive in the wild, but it can still survive in captivity, like in a large enclosure, such as at a wildlife refuge. So that is where this old man had ended up. And I keep saying old man, he's about 15 years old, this guy. And so that's pretty high for the eastern screech owls. So this guy right here, unfortunately, he was hit by a car. I know. Now let me ask you, why would an owl be crossing a road? Why would he get hit by a car? Let's think about what they eat for a second. What do you think might have been scurrying right across a road? And this guy was, yes, I heard it already, a mouse. That's right, because this animal, his favorite snack in the whole wide world are mice. So he was looking for a mouse, and it was a cold winter night, and he made a dive. Unfortunately, a car was coming and did strike this guy. So because of that, he has what's called neurological damage. So he can't really go out and hunt on his own anymore. He requires people for assistance. Can we touch it? Well, remember what I told you I'm wearing. And why is that?
Maybe the wings you could.
The wings. Well, what about the wings? Now, let me tell you. Do you think this is my pet?
No.
No, he's not my pet. He wasn't born and raised to be my companion. This is a wild animal, and that's why we're keeping our voices low. Because wild animals can get spooked by that. Now, if someone walked up behind you and put your hand on your back, you might get really spooked. And that's what he would think. He wouldn't think that I'm trying to be his friend. He would think, oh my goodness, that's a predator, and he can turn around and try to attack. Which is why we definitely don't want to touch a wild animal on his wings or his back. Yes?
I don't know that much about owls.
Okay. But you will.
Can they go like this, or can they only go like...
Okay, so you're saying, can owls go like this or this? Are you talking about their heads?
Can they go like round forever?
Around forever. So if an owl can turn its head around forever, it would pop off at one point. But an owl, he can turn his head pretty far. Do you want to see maybe he might do it?
They can't turn their head all the way around.
An owl a male or a female?
Yeah, it's only till about here.
He can turn it about 270 degrees. And so if you imagine you have a pizza pie right in front of you with 8 slices, and you take away one slice, the pizza that's left over, that's about 270 degrees. And that's how far this animal can turn his head. What was your question again?
I think I see some stitches on his
Some stitches? No. What you're seeing is his camouflage. Now, boys and girls, if this owl is rested up against a tree, do you think you'd be able to see it too well?
No.
No. He has this excellent camouflage, this plumage of feathers that helps him blend into the environment. And that's how he stays so hidden. That's right, so predators don't find him. Now, boys and girls, eastern screech owls are very interesting in the fact that they actually come in 3 different color variations. They come in gray, rufus, which is kind of like a brick red color, and brown. My friend here is of the rufus variety. I'm going to go ahead and give my eastern screech owl friend here a break. Yes?
Has a bird ever tried to fly away?
Yes, a bird has tried to fly away. It's called baiting when they do. They might see something that spooks them. So if that happens, you want to make a call. That's right. That's why we don't want to bother them. You have your hand raised, lady?
Yeah. What would the owl say?
So, good question. I'll answer that in a second. What was that?
What would happen if the owl flew away? What would basically happen?
You'd be in trouble. That's the short answer. Now, someone had asked, what's the owl's name? Now, I'm just going to remind you guys that these guys are not my pets. And sometimes people do decide to keep wild animals as pets. So by not giving these guys a name, I'm telling people that they shouldn't be pets. So each and every animal here does not have a name, other than what they are, like eastern screech owl. I have two feathers right here I want to talk about. The one in my right hand, this belongs to a red-tailed hawk, and the one in my left hand belongs to a barred owl. Now, owls fly completely silently, and I want to show you guys how silent they are. So, I'm going to take this feather and listen carefully. Can everyone hear that? Same feather, same size. Nothing. And that's because they have what's called an adaptation, or a special ability that helps them fly silently at night. There's That's it.
Hear it.
Yeah, you hear this one. And I guarantee if you did that with that one, it would make noise. And that's because they have these little tiny barbs on the edge of their feather. Kind of looks like a hair comb. And that's what gives them the silent flying ability. You have other feathers too? Very cool. Maybe you could test that at home. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and meet our next animal.
Excuse me?
Yes.
What is in here?
You're about to find out.
What is it?
Do you want to take a seat and we'll find out in just a
Is
second?
it alive?
It is alive. I think we should take a seat so that
It's
way.
a bird.
Maybe.
I don't think it's a bird. Oh yeah. I'd hide your stuffed
I
animal.
want to make sure you take a seat so you're safe, okay, sweetheart?
Okay. I'd hide your stuffed animal because they can die. There's a bird. There's one. Hey, pretty girl. Hey. Oh, I want to pet it. It's so pretty.
So boys and girls, I have with me our next animal, similar but different from our owl. With me is the smallest falcon you can find in all of North America. With me is the American kestrel. Now boys and girls, this animal is absolutely incredible. They have small, sharp talons, but she has something that helps her a lot better than the owl does. She has a specialized beak that's built like a can opener, and that helps them hunt so much more effectively with their mouth as opposed to their talons. Now, right off the bat, we can see that she's about the size of a blue jay, so tiny, but she has these really beautiful markings all around her. And the first thing I want to point out is her face. Now, boys and girls, have you ever seen sports players put black stripes under their eyes?
Yeah.
What does that do? Some people say nothing. Some people say it helps them see. It helps reflect sunlight away. And this bird has it completely built in. She didn't wake up today and put lines under her eyes. She didn't put on her makeup. Her feathers grow in this black color because this kind of animal will like to sit on a fence post. They'll be looking over an open field, scanning the horizons, and she wants to keep that sun out of her eyes because she is fast. She loves to.
Cheetah.
Yeah, she's fast. Not like a cheetah, but there are birds even faster than she does. But like the peregrine falcon. Now, I'm not going to segue too much into it, but the peregrine falcon can dive at speeds of about 230 miles an hour. I did. I've seen you at the Refuge before. Now, what's really interesting about the American kestrel is that they display what's called dimorphism. They look different depending if they are male or female. Now, if this was a boy, you see from the top of the head that it's almost like a bluish color. Oh, thank you. She'd vowed for you guys to see that bluish color. Now, the male would have that more predominantly throughout their body, throughout their chest, along with spots. So you can easily look at them and differentiate if it's a boy or a girl. I see a hand raised. Great question. Why is she bouncing her tail up and down like that? Well, she's trying to just balance herself to stabilize herself a little bit better. And that's why I try to walk sideways with her, because it's easier for her to keep her balance like this as opposed to back and forth. So she's just keeping herself balanced. Great observation. Okay. Yes, young lady.
So basically, why does she have almost that looks like two tails?
Why does it look like she has two tails?
Yeah.
Well, you're seeing her what's called her primary wing feathers, and they're sticking out a little bit behind. It's almost like they're crisscross, and the tail is the one that's bobbing up and down. Yes.
How far can they turn their head?
Not as far as an owl, but it's pretty close. Now, boys and girls, I want to talk about why this animal lives at the Quogue Wildlife Refuge. Do you see anything wrong with her? Her wings look pretty good. She looks pretty healthy. Anyone see anything wrong?
They're endangered a little bit.
No, they're not
I
endangered.
see something.
What do you see?
Her wings damaged.
Nothing's wrong with their wings. There's nothing physically wrong with this bird. But why does she live at the refuge? And I'll tell you.
Mentally. I know.
Something going on mentally. Now, when she was just a tiny little bird, she had taken a little tumble out of her nest. Someone came around and said, wow, that's a cool looking bird. I'm going to keep that as my pet.
That.
Oh, bad news, right?
Wait, why
No.
can't she be released?
Good question. Why can't she be released? Well, when any animal grows up, it knows what kind of animal it is because the parents tell them what they are. So if she didn't have a falcon parent to teach her how to hunt, how to go around and do all the things that falcons need to do. Right. How do you know you're a young lady? Your parents taught you, right? So there you go. So she never learned. And once that window closes where they need to understand who they are as a species, that's it. So she doesn't quite understand that she's a falcon. That's why animals like this can be very dangerous, because she doesn't know if someone's in her territory she could attack. Or sometimes they can start going after people, and that could be very, very dangerous. Yeah, so that's why she lives at the refuge, where she gets lots of food and special care each and every day. And I'll make a trip right through this alley right here so everyone can get a chance to see her. Okay, I see a hand raised. Yes, you have a question.
Why is it shaky?
Oh, why she's shaking? She's using her tail to balance herself. Yeah, I'm gonna come around where everyone can get an opportunity to see. She does have big eyes, yeah. Maybe you want to take a seat, sweetheart, so I can make my way through that way? Thank you so much. She's approximately 7 to 8 years old. When she was really young, what had ended up happening to her is that she suffered an upper respiratory infection and was brought to the veterinarian by that individual who tried to keep her as a pet. Now, this bird has federal protection on it. So as far back as 1918, the Migratory Bird Treaty Act was passed, making it a federal crime to possess not only the animal itself, but any parts such as feathers. And in fact, the only birds I can really think of off the top of my head on Long Island that don't have that protection are like pigeons and house sparrows. That's it. Even animals like such as gulls, you keep a feather from that, technically that's a crime. So you always, if you ever find a feather, you always just want to leave it because there's no way to prove where that came from or how it was obtained. So boys and girls, I do have a few other birds. And as I said, I started off small. I always like to get myself bigger and bigger because I have another super cool animal to show you guys. I see one more hand raised. Yes. It's called an American kestrel. Okay. All right, so we're going to move on to the next animal. And as I do that, I see a hand raised. Yeah. I know the genus is Falco, but I couldn't tell you the species name. Good questions. So I'm going to ask you a question now. What's a bird scientist called?
A birdologist.
You said it. Ornithologist, that's right. All right, boys and girls, I am moving on to the next animal, and I'm just going to remind you, we're going to use our indoor voices because this guy, we certainly don't want to spook. Because we got a bigger box. Boys and girls, I'm just going to remind you, we're going to be super quiet with this one because we definitely don't want to spook it for your and my safety.
another bird.
Good? Ready? All right, boys and girls, we moved up in size. I have with me the red-tailed hawk.
Oh, I love that.
Those are common. I see them a lot.
That's right. We'll talk about that in just a second. So why is this called the red-tailed hawk? Does anyone see any red on it?
On its butt. On its butt.
On its butt.
Yeah, on its tail.
On its tail. Now, boys and girls, I'm going to turn him around. I want you to be super quiet and everyone can see this beautiful, beautiful red tail that my friend here has.
I can't see it. That's like a goldenish red. It's like a brownish red. It's a brownish red.
So we're still going to use our indoor voices because we definitely don't want to spook this guy. Now, boys and girls, some of you said that you've seen this one before. This is a very common bird of prey. Here in Long Island, they love to perch on light posts. If you ever drive down the highways and you look at a light post and you go, wait a second, that bird's a little bit too big to be something like a pigeon. It's usually one of these guys looking for their next meal. And so their eyesight is incredible. So I'm going to show you guys something really cool about this bird that you might not have noticed before. Now, I'm wearing a baseball cap, but so is he. He's got it completely built in. His eyebrow bones, it's called the supraorbital ridge, sticks out a little bit further than the rest of his eyes. So it kind of gives him that angry look. But what he does is he's got this visor built in so he can spot something at the end of a football field. So boys and girls, if I held up a book at the end of a football field, can this bird read it? No, because birds can't read. But if it was something small, like a rabbit, he would see it and he would make a dive for it. He would go fast and he would grab it from the air. Now this guy, they prefer to dive upon their prey. And in fact, they dive in another very special way. When hawks are looking for a boyfriend or girlfriend, they will circle around in the sky looking for one another. And when they do, they have to tell each other. And what they'll do is they will lock talons, tumble down to earth, and release at the last second. And then once they do that, they'll know that they're made for each other. Now, boys and girls, what's really incredible is that this bird is monogamous. And that means once they find a boyfriend or girlfriend, they will stick with them for the rest of their life, and they will both help take care of the nest. Yes?
What if the boyfriend or girlfriend dies, but the other one stays?
Good question. What happens if one of them ends up in trouble and they need to find a new one? Yeah, they will. They'll go off and try to find a new mate. Good question. Okay. So, boys and girls, what's really amazing about this animal is you see how he has a white belly? Do you think that's good camouflage? I will tell you, it's excellent camouflage. So this animal has what's called counter shading. So if he was flying way up high in the air and you were looking towards the sun, wouldn't you want a white belly? Yeah, that would be really hard to spot. But what if you were another bird bigger and you were trying to hunt this bird and he was lower than you? What about this excellent camouflage on the back? Do you think that this would blend in with the ground? Yes. Much better than a white belly. So this bird has a very special kind of camouflage called counter shading. Yes.
Actually, there's a World War II airplane where it has a blue under, so
Right.
when they're bombing, people think it's
It blends in with the sky,
the
right?
sky, and when those planes above, it has a green top,
Right.
so people think it's just the ground.
Right. So this young man said that even some airplanes have different colors on the top or bottom. Do you think maybe they learned that from nature?
Yeah.
Probably. In fact, some animals even have adaptations or special abilities that are a part of these animals. That they see them in these animals. They know it's so effective. They use it in their own technology. Okay. Let's see a few hands raised. Yes, young man.
How big are their
How big are their babies? They're pretty small. Not as big as this guy. But how much do you think he weighs? 50 pounds? 20 pounds?
Yeah.
3 pounds?
No.
3 pounds. He feels like 100 pounds right now, though. But he's about 3. 3 pounds. That's it. I'm going to walk straight ahead through this aisle right here so everyone can see my red-tailed hawk friend. Okay.
Can I take a picture?
I'm just gonna walk this way. So a lot of people are asking, why does he live at the refuge? Have you guys noticed that he's doing a cool little slant like this? He's just hanging out. That's because his left wing, which is the side that's facing that direction, it's shattered. When they break, they kind of break into a whole bunch of different pieces. Think about taking a glass jar and throwing it on the ground. Trying to put that back together is so difficult. You know, oftentimes, if a bird of prey breaks their wing, or if they have an eye injury, that usually means that they need permanent care for the rest of their life.
All the birds you're going to show us have to stay in forever.
Every bird that you see here is a permanent resident of the Quogue Wildlife Refuge, yeah. And they get special care every single day. And I'll tell you, they eat better than I do.
So if we go, then we'll see them?
Yeah, if you came to the Quogue Wildlife Refuge today, you would see this guy. In fact, you can see him at the refuge every single day. Now, in the other hand right there is a very special bone. Yes, you can take a picture. And this bone actually does something really incredible. It holds the eye completely in place. Now, a great horned owl cannot look up, down, left, or right. That eye is permanently locked in there. And because it's so big, now boys and girls, look how big the socket is. And look how small its head is. By comparison, if we had the same eyes, they'd be about the size of grapefruits. Did you? Very cool. So can you imagine having grapefruit-sized eyes? They're gigantic. That'd be terrifying.
What skull is
This is from a bird of prey called a great horned owl. And this right here,
They turn their heads
eyeball.
because they can't move.
That's right, because of this bone right here, it cannot turn its eyes. All right. No, he does not want to escape. He's stretching his wings from that nice long car ride that he had. All right, so boys and girls, I'm going to remind you, you're going to be really quiet for this guy because he needs very special care. He needs it to be quiet. And I'll tell you guys why. Now, the great horned owl, I talked just moments ago how incredible their eyes are. He's kind of gotten a little bit squinted because it's so bright out. But this guy right here, the great horned owl, his name is Hooter. He has a very special name, and he's the only animal at the refuge that has a name because we got him with one. And he is about 29 years old. He's older than some of you guys. His name is Hooter. Hooter, the great horned owl. Now, boys and girls, I want to show you guys something very special about it. You see him looking at you guys? He can't see you guys.
He's blind.
My friend Hooter here is completely blind. So why is his eyes? Because different brightness. He can still kind of get sensation. Yeah.
But I
So if their eyes get damaged, sometimes they could be a different color, but his eyes don't look damaged, but they are. Yes, Emily?
Why did he come with it?
He came with the name because he has a very long history. He wasn't even born in New York. He came from around...
How's that?
No, not Asia. They don't have great horned owls over in Asia. He came just because he's so old. So he eventually lived at the Queens Ecology Center before getting transferred to the Quogue Wildlife Refuge about 20 years ago.
We saw this in our house a few days ago.
Cool. So boys and girls, we're just going to stay seated because I'm coming around with my friend Hooter here. You see I have a hand raised?
And we saw literally millions of bees in our house. That fly.
So this young man is asking about his little feathers right up here. Now he's called the great horned owl. Boys and girls, do you think that these are horns?
No.
No. Are they his ears?
No.
No. These are tufts of feathers. But he has these tufts of feathers for a very special reason. Because if in the wild, great horned owls need an additional sense of camouflage. These tufts of feathers give him a very streamlined look, and he can blend into his environment in addition with this excellent camouflage that he has. Now, he too, just like our American kestrel, is imprinted. So he doesn't quite know that he's an owl. In fact, he's very, very sweet, this guy. He was raised alongside people at a very young age, so he's used to people. In fact, he's a very, very good owl. So I want to talk about his ears. So he can turn his head really far around but his ears are a lot different than ours. So if you were to take your two fingers and rub them together, they make a sound. That tiny little sound, he can hear that at the end of a basketball court. That's how good their hearing is. If it was the dead of winter and he was sitting high up in a tree, he can hear a mouse burrowing underneath the snow. And he will use these great talons, these super duper strong talons, to go down and grab something like a rabbit, a skunk, and a possum. Because these talons here, these feet are so strong, and I'm going to tell you how strong they are. If I were to take my hand and squeeze down as hard as I can on a good day when I took my vitamins and supplements, I have about 50 to 60 pounds of pressure per square inch in that squeeze. If Hooter here squeezed down as hard as he can without a workout training regimen, he has about 550 pounds of pressure per square inch in each foot. So when Hooter's having a bad day, I'm having a bad day.
How did he get a mouthful? Is he under the snow?
He uses his very special sense of hearing to hear other animals. So
How
his
did he
ears
get him
are
under
different than ours. So they are what's called asymmetrical. Can you imagine having an ear where it normally would be and an ear down below by your lower jaw? That would be really funky. But it actually has a really cool special ability. So he can what's called triangulate sound. If there was a sound coming from above the trees, it would come down and strike this ear before the other, so he would know to look up. But if the sound came from below, it would strike this ear and he would know to look down. So he can tell where sounds are coming from above, below, or even behind him. Yes.
Can he hear someone stepping?
He can hear someone stepping. And what was your question? So he's just squinting a little bit. He actually has allergies and he has some feathers missing right around his eyes right now. But that's seasonal. He gets allergies just like I do. Certain pollens. So boys and girls, we're not going to guess the weight of this one because he, just like the red-tailed hawk, is about 3 pounds, but he's actually super tiny. He has about a little over 9,000 feathers on his body. And I want to show you guys how many feathers he has. So we're going to be super duper quiet right now. And I'm going to actually touch his belly. So we're going to look at Hooter and we're going to tell him how special he is. And we're going to move our finger until we get to his belly, and now I'm touching it. So I'm going to remove my finger up to that second knuckle. It's just a really dense plumage of down feathers. And that's how he's able to hang out all throughout the winter. These guys are found in parts of Canada, all the way through the Americas and down into Mexico because of that dense feather plumage. In fact, let's look at his feet. Can you think of any other birds that have feathers on their feet? Not too many. And that helps him survive the really cold winter months. Okay, I see some hands raised. We got questions about Hooter? Their wingspan, yes. They do have a really big wingspan. It's about 5 feet. You want to see his wingspan? Okay, so we're going to be really quiet. And we're going to ask Mr. Hooter. Hooter, do you have a 5-foot wingspan? Do you want to show them?
Whoa! He actually showed.
Isn't that cool?
You talked to him. Can you just speak to him?
I did.
Wait, does he know you?
I do speak owl. He understands that he's not in any danger whatsoever by being out in front of a really large audience today. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about how birds of prey eat, and it's the coolest thing in the world. So after an owl eats, it doesn't go right into their tummy, it doesn't go right into their stomach, it goes into an area called a crop. The crop is a little bit higher, and that's where all the magic takes place, and all the good stuff goes into his stomach. But about an hour or two, up until after he eats, he regurgitates what's called a pellet. Maybe you might remember this from biology class in high school. I see some heads nodding. Yeah, and it's just a mesh of just bones and fur. In fact, when you dissect them, you can probably put together, just like a puzzle, their last meal. And almost every single bird of prey even does this. It's pretty cool. See a lot of hands raised. Okay, we'll start from the right. Yes, young man.
I know you were already talking about the hearing, but I don't know if you mentioned that because he's blind, does he like 100% rely on his hearing,
That's
or does
great.
he use other senses too?
That's a great question. So Hooter here relies almost entirely on his sense of hearing, being that he can't see. That's why when I feed him, I have to put his food in the same spot each and every day, because that way he'll know where it is. Can he smell? That's a good question. So I used to work in animal medicine, And my wife used to hate when I worked with great horned owls. Do you know why? One of their favorite things to eat are skunks. So when a great horned owl goes down and grabs a skunk, the skunk will get spooked and blast him right in the face. You think the owl cares?
No.
Nope, because owls cannot smell. It's a very big misconception. In fact, the only bird of prey around here that can smell is the vulture. And if you have a parrot at home, very likely it can smell too. So if you're ever to help a baby bird, the misconception, don't touch it, the mom will smell you. You can touch them. The birds have a very, very poor sense of smell. So this is what's called a falconer's glove, and it has about 3 different layers of cowhide to keep my hand protected. So if you were to squeeze down, it would protect my hand from getting a new piercing today, but I definitely would feel the pressure, and I would probably lose feeling in my fingertips. Because I'm right-handed. I need to use my right hand in order to attach this equipment, so it's easier that way. Quogue Wildlife Refuge is open every single day from sunrise to sunset. We're a nonprofit organization, so we're completely free to visit any single time, any day of the week, and we hold special events just like the ones that are here today. And we have some brochures and membership sleeves on the table. But guys, thank you guys again very much for coming. I appreciate it.
That was so nice, right?
Let's go inside.
Hi, my name is Dan. I'm the animal caretaker at the Quogue Wildlife Refuge. Today I have with me Hooter, who is a great horned owl, and he is one of the permanent animal residents at the Quogue Wildlife Refuge. Today we have a presentation on birds of prey, and in celebration of Earth Day, it gives us a wonderful opportunity to teach children and adults of all ages about the importance of our ecosystem and the animals that we share within it.